It is exactly 9:51 a.m. on this Monday morning. It's News and Views with me, Julie Ali, and we are on to our final interview for the morning. We'll be talking with Carina van Wyk. She is Head of Education and Training at TriFacts, Africa Checks Training, Research and Information Unit. It's about a very big event that is going to be taking place in October, November this year. And the importance of this event, it is called the Africa Facts Summit. It is between the 9th and 10th of November. Let's understand who Africa Check is, what they do, how they service us as the ordinary public, civil society, and the type of work they've been involved in. Carina van Wyk, a very good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Julie. Thank you. So Africa Check is the continent's first independent fact-checking organization. And what we basically do is we make sure that information in the public domain is accurate. So we verify claims made by public figures to make sure that statements they made are accurate, so that the public has accurate information to base their decisions on and their actions on. Because we make decisions every day. Sometimes we don't even think about it. It happens naturally, like, looking for oncoming traffic before you cross the road. But then there are more important or very important decisions that we need to think about. And that is, who am I going to vote for in the next elections? How am I going to take care of my health? Am I going to get vaccinated? How am I going to ensure that my children get the best possible education? And that's what we need accurate information for. And then besides this information that I'm referring to, there's also a big focus on social media these days, because so much false information spreads on social media. So we also do fact checking on these platforms to make sure to set the facts straight, basically.
Okay, so if I'm uncertain about information that's out in the public domain, possibly made by a politician or, a head of a company or whatever, how do I go about checking if the information is correct? And if we as the public or I as an individual has been misled by this information, what can I do about it? And where does Africa Check then, come into the picture? So I contact you and I say to you, I've come across this piece of information. If it is correct, it's going to disadvantage me. Can you help me check whether it's correct or not? And then you do a check for me. You'll explain to me very briefly how you go about it. What do I then do with this information? Who assists me in calling the people to account for this misinformation?
Okay, so we do often we keep a close eye on social media platforms. We keep a close eye on the news of the day, and then as you rightly said, we also have our followers on our different platforms also contact us and say, but we saw this on social media, or we heard that a politician made a certain statement. And then we have a process on deciding what to fact check and prioritizing what to fact check. It's usually, the main question is, what would the harm be or the impact be on the public if this remains unverified? And then we decide as a team what to fact check. We fact check those fact-checking reports where we explain the whole process. So we look at a specific statement that was made. We look at the latest publicly available data and statistics and research to see whether what was said was true or not. We also consult experts in the field. So say, for instance, if it's a COVID-related claim, we'll speak to an expert in the spread of infectious diseases, or a virologist, for example, to help us put things into context and explain it to us. We then publish, once we've made our finding, or we get to our conclusion, we publish the fact-checking reports on our website, and you'll see that on in any of our fact-checking reports, the whole process of how we fact-check this, exactly where we found our information, is explained in this report. So that if you look at this report and you follow this process, you will reach the same conclusion, and you'll know exactly how we reach that. What we then would also do, say for instance, an organization made a claim, or a politician made a claim, and a media organization repeated that, for example, then we will be in touch with them to ask them to publish a correction. Which is not always successful, but we do try to then encourage, accuracy in information available out there.
It sounds pretty labor intensive. It sounds like lots and lots of hours of research goes into just fact checking one report. That does sound like a lot of hard work, but it is, of course, in the interest of the general public. Let us understand why and how you guys set up shop here in South Africa. I believe that it was established in 2012 by Peter Cunliffe Jones. Why did you decide that it was important to establish Africa Check here in South Africa? And I should imagine this services the entire continent of Africa.
Yes. So we started in Johannesburg, and we now have offices in Senegal, Kenya, and Nigeria. So we've grown ever since. And how this happened is that our founder was working for AFP Fact Check in Nigeria in the early 2000s. And then he saw the damage that false information around the polio vaccination did, and how people stopped vaccinating their children because there were some political and religious leaders who were saying, but you shouldn't vaccinate your child against polio. They are going to become infertile. It's a Western-led plot to reduce the Muslim population. And then people stopped vaccinating their children. And it took another about 17, 18 years until 2020 for Nigeria to be declared polio-free in the end. And some people still live with the consequences today. So when Peter saw the damage that was done there, he realized the need for a fact-checking organization in Africa. And that's how Africa Check came about.
Okay, so the big news is there is the Africa Fact Summit, which is happening in early November. The importance of the summit and the role players that will be involved.
So we're very excited about this. We're going to have fact checkers from across the African continent there, and we're going to be discussing challenges and opportunities in fact checking across Africa. It's mostly members from our Africa Facts member network of fact checkers, and this network came about in 2017. In line with Africa Check's aim of fostering the practice of fact-checking across the continent. And in 2017, when we had our first in-person meeting in Johannesburg, there were only 2 fact-checking organizations doing regular fact-checking, and that was Africa Check and PESA Check. But the network has grown so significantly that we're now on about 25 members across Africa, with most of them doing regular fact-checking. And we will all be getting together in November in Nairobi. We'll also be announcing the winners of our annual African Fact-Checking Awards, which is aimed at encouraging journalists to also start practicing specifically fact-checking journalism. And we'll be celebrating Africa Check's 10th birthday.
Wow, it sounds absolutely amazing. I do hope that you guys have a wonderful time sharing and exchanging information, knowledge, etc. The other key question, obviously, is do you pay for the service? So if I'm wanting something to be checked, just understanding, as you've lined out just now, that there's lots of research involved in getting to the fact. It might be a simple fact, or it might be something really very complicated, but there is time and energy and resources involved in doing the fact checking. Are there costs involved?
So we don't necessarily provide it as Africa Check, that's a non-government organization. We don't necessarily provide the service as Africa Check to the public. We are we basically depend on funding from a variety of organizations in order to do our work. So it's not a paid for service by Africa Check. That said, we do offer research services through Trifax, our research and information unit that you mentioned earlier. So that is almost a separate entity that does paid for research services. But as Africa Check itself, we don't provide it as a paid for service.
Okay, so Carina, is it as simple as if I'm wanting something verified, I go onto your website and I pose the question, I give you the background information or whatever it is, and then await your feedback. How will I know that you deem my query important enough to be able to, check it out for me and then post the answer on your website?
So so listeners can send us an email at info@africacheck.org. We also have a WhatsApp line where you can submit claims related to information that you received on WhatsApp. I can share that number with you.
Sure.
That is 082 709 3527.
Okay, that number, the WhatsApp number is 082 709 3527. And if you've not managed to write it down, I suggest you go to Africa Check's website. You surely will get the number there. You must be receiving lots and lots of queries. How do you decide? This must be a very difficult one. How do you decide what is important enough, or this needs to be checked and information needs to be put out, information needs to be corrected and put out in the general public domain, like your website? Who makes that call? Who decides Julie's query is very insignificant, we're not going to follow through? And do you then respond to me, just say, sorry, we don't have the resources, or sorry, this was addressed elsewhere, or sorry, we can't fact check this information for whatever reason?
So that will be a decision made by several of our editorial team members. Like you said, there's so much information out there that could possibly be false. There's so much for us to fact check that is probably one of the biggest challenges of being a fact checking organization. But it boils down to, what will the impact be if this goes unchecked? And if it has an impact on people's health, for example, if it can be life-threatening, if it can lead to fear or violence, if it informs our political decisions, like who am I going to vote for in the next election? So we often fact check, or we always fact check political parties' election manifestos, for example. So those are the things that we focus on. So basically your health, your education, your politics, the economy, anything that will really have a big impact on people's lives.
You guys must have been inundated during COVID regarding all the controversy around the vaccines.
Yes, we were. COVID kept us very, very busy. There were so many conspiracy theories doing the rounds, and I'm sure you can remember that, the conspiracy theories saying that you will get microchipped if you get the vaccine, or that 5G towers are causing the spread of COVID, and even some of these towers being set alight. And that just shows you the danger of such false information. Yes, so it was quite a busy time for us. Also all the so-called homemade cures. There were loads of those examples as well. Just boil your water with some lemon peels and inhale the steam, and you will be cured. So we had a lot of work on our hands during that time to debunk all the false information around COVID.
And it didn't help when Donald Trump made such irresponsible remarks on air, did it? Something to do with some sort of chemical that one needed to ingest. That was really very irresponsible. But be that as it may, I see that you also have a training center as well. What sort of training does Africa Check undertake, and whom do you train?
So we've trained more than 8,000 people since 2015.
Wow.
It's one of our biggest activities as an organization, because we believe that as fact checkers on our own, there's no way that we can verify all the information out there. So we want to provide people with skills to verify information themselves, and look at something that they see on social media and go, but is this true? Where does it come from? Is this from a reliable source? Was this image really taken this morning, or is it an image of a protest 3 years ago? So we equip the public, journalists, journalism students, civil society organizations, and so forth. We equip them with the basic fact-checking and verification skills, critical thinking skills, to recognize false information.
Okay, I'm on, put me down on your next training session. I definitely need to be there. Wonderful talking to you. What do you want to leave us with this morning?
I'd like to encourage all of you to always look at information critically. I'd like everyone to stop and ask and verify, and pause before you click that send or share button, and make 100% sure what you are about to send is true, because otherwise you can also contribute to the spread of false information.
Absolutely. Carina van Wyk from Africa Check. What a lovely, it was so lovely talking with you this morning. You're Head of Education and Training at TriFacts, Africa Check's Training, Research and Information Unit. So we were just talking to you about what you're about, your company, your organization, and of course the big event that's happening in November, the first week of November, and that is the Africa Facts Summit. Thank you so much for being with us on the show this morning. Go well and God bless.
Thank you, Julie.
The time is exactly 9 after 10 o'clock. Thank you indeed for being with me on the show this morning. Inshallah, next up, we're going to be listening to the recitation of Juz 15 by Yasser Al-Dosari. A big thank you to the production team. That's you, Nasrin Naidu and Olani, behind the controls. Tomorrow morning at the same time, as always, take care on the roads. And it is Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz from me, Julie Ali.